The Tiara Club at Ruby Mansions. Princess Jessica and the Best Friend Bracelet. Vivian French. Hi. It's me. Princess Jessica. And it's lovely to meet you, and to know you're here at Ruby Mansions with me and my friends from Poppy Room. Have you met us all? As well as me, there's Chloe, Olivia, Lauren, Georgia, and Amy. And Charlotte, Katie, Daisy, Alice, Sophia, and Emily are in Rose's room right next door to us. Things would be just about perfect if only those horrible twins, Diamond and Gruella, weren't here. They get worse and worse, especially Diamond. Chapter 1. I just wish I knew where it was, Amy said for about the 20th time that morning, and Chloe, Olivia, and I nodded sympathetically. We were sitting in the homework room trying to finish our maths, but Amy had lost her watch and we weren't really concentrating. Could you have left it in the cloakroom? Olivia asked. Amy shook her head. I've looked everywhere. It's completely disappeared. I was about to suggest looking in her pockets when Lauren rushed in. Have you heard? She asked. There's going to be a festival of friendship. Fairy G told me. And there's a competition before that too. We've got to think of something special to do for our friends, and the dormitory with the best idea gets to ride at the head of a friendship procession all the way round the town. Ride? Chloe sat up very straight. You mean, actually riding on a pony? Lauren nodded, and her eyes were sparkling. Isn't it just brilliant? The stables are just full of the sweetest little dapple gray ponies. Oops. Lauren clapped her hand over her mouth. Fairy G told me not to tell. It's meant to be a surprise. Oh, we absolutely have to win. Do hurry up, and then we can make our plans. And she dashed off again. We looked at each other. It does sound amazing, I said. Dapple gray ponies. Won't they be gorgeous? And we ought to win, because we Poppy Roomers are the best friends ever, Olivia added. Chloe sucked the end of her pencil. I hope the ponies aren't too frisky. Just imagine falling off in front of a whole crowd of people. Wouldn't it be mortifying? You'll be okay, I said. Riding's easy. Amy looked at me. Actually, she said, it isn't easy if you're scared. She bit her lip. Can I tell you a secret? I fell off a pony when I was little, and I've been terrified of riding ever since. I still have nightmares about it. It was horrible. Didn't they make you get straight back on? I asked. They did me. Amy turned very pink. My mother wouldn't let me, she said. And please don't tell anyone else. Please. If we win, I'm going to try really hard to be brave. Of course, we all promised. Perfect princesses never tell each other secrets. Actually, Fairy G would never make you ride unless you wanted to, Chloe said. Fairy G's our fairy godmother, and she looks after us. And we may not win anyway. Let's get this homework finished, and then we can meet up with Lauren and Georgia and think of some ideas. And ask them if they've found my watch, Amy said. Although I don't think I'll ever see it again. I looked at my maths book and groaned. How on earth are we supposed to know how much it costs to clean the palace windows? What about putting? It depends how many windows there are. Olivia suggested. I think that's really clever, I said. The others agreed, and we tidied our notebooks into our lockers and hurried off. I was last, and it was only as I was about to go through the door that I noticed the twins. They were lurking in the corner of the homework room, almost hidden behind a bookcase. They were whispering together, and looking so pleased with themselves. I couldn't help thinking they'd been spying on us, but I told myself, a perfect princess always thinks the best of others. I ran after my friends and tripped over the rug as I reached the corridor. Wham! It took my breath away, and I felt so silly. I picked myself up as quickly as I could, and that's when I saw Amy's watch lying in a corner. I let out a whoop of joy. Amy would be thrilled to see it again. I put it in my pocket, dusted myself down, and zoomed off. Chapter 2. When I came hurrying into the recreation room, Georgia was smoothing out a piece of paper. Chloe was clutching a pencil, and Lauren was leaning over her shoulder. "Where's Amy?" I asked as I joined them. "She's gone with Olivia to check the notice board for the competition rules," Lauren explained. "Here's Olivia now." Lauren waved as Olivia came puffing up and flung herself onto the sofa. "We've got to think of creative ways to make a friend feel special," Olivia said. "And we don't just get to ride at the front of the procession. If we win, we get 10 tiara points each." I was beginning to wonder if Amy had gone to look for her watch upstairs. I was dying to see her face when I handed it over. "Is Amy going to be long?" I asked. Olivia shrugged. "I left her by the notice board," she said. "She was talking to Diamond and Gruella. I'll go and find her," I said. "I've got such a surprise for her." And I jumped up and rushed off. I absolutely flew down the corridor, and I was lucky I didn't meet any teachers. They'd have given me a million minus tiara points for running. I could see Diamond, Gruella, and Amy by the notice board, and I bounced up to them. "Guess what?" I said to Amy. "Look what I found." And I held out her watch. "Thank you," Amy said, and she took it and waved it at Diamond. "Isn't it wonderful to have friends who look after you?" Diamond turned towards me, and I saw her wink at Gruella. "Yes," she said, and she looked really nasty. "It's wonderful to have friends if they really are friends. But you see, Amy, we've got something we feel we ought to tell you about Jessica." And she shook her head as if she was very upset. "Isn't that right, Gruella?" Gruella nodded. "That's right, Diamond." "Amy," Diamond went on, "I'm afraid Jessica told us your secret. She told us you're a poor little scaredy cat, and you're ever so scared of writing." I was so taken by surprise I couldn't say a word. I just stared at Diamond. And then the most dreadful thing happened. Amy looked at me, and her eyes filled with tears. "How could you?" she asked. "I didn't think you'd ever do something like that. I really didn't." She gave a little sob and ran away down the corridor. Diamond smiled triumphantly. "And we thought you were such special friends," she said. "Oh dear." And then she and Gruella marched off in the other direction, sniggering. I was so angry, and really upset as well. How could Amy think I'd do something so horrible? She was my friend. I'd never tell any of her secrets. I took a deep breath and walked slowly back to the recreation room. As soon as I got through the door, I knew they'd been talking about what had happened. Amy was sitting on a sofa, and Lauren and Georgia had their arms round her. As I came towards them, Amy sniffed and buried her nose in her hanky. Chloe glared at me. "Honestly, Jessica," she said. "How could you be so mean? Amy says you told the twins about how she's scared of writing and you promised you wouldn't tell." "But I didn't," I protested. "Really, I didn't." Olivia shook her head. "I'm sorry, Jess," she said. "It must have been you. How else could they have known? Amy only told us 10 minutes ago in the homework room." I had a sudden flash of inspiration. But the twins were there too. I saw them as I was going out. They must have overheard us talking. They were behind the bookcase. Even as I explained, my voice died away. I could see from my friends' faces they so didn't believe me. Chloe frowned. I didn't see them there. She turned to Olivia. Did you? Olivia shook her head again. No, she said. Amy gave me such a sad look. I'm sure you didn't mean to tell, she said. I expect it just sort of slipped out, and then the twins made the most of it. I began to feel sick. Ever since I'd been at the Princess Academy, I'd been best friends with everyone in Poppy Room, and now Lauren was looking at me as if I was as nasty as Diamond. Amy blew her nose hard. Let's try and forget about it, she said bravely. If I wasn't so stupid about writing, it would never have happened. Let's think about what we're going to do for the competition. You're a perfect princess, Chloe said, and gave Amy a hug. You really truly are. That's right. Olivia gave me a frosty look. And I think Jessica should say she's sorry. But I haven't done anything, I said, and then I couldn't help it. I burst into tears and ran out of the room. And no one ran after me, and I knew why. They thought I was crying because I was guilty, but I wasn't. I was crying because they didn't believe in me. Chapter 3. I rushed to the cloakroom so nobody would see me, but when I got there, Emily was washing her hands. Are you okay? She asked. I swallowed and nodded. I'm fine, I said, and I blew my nose hard. Emily looked at me doubtfully. Are you sure? She asked. Yes, thank you. And I almost was. When things go wrong, I like to do things, and I'd thought of something. I'd go to the library and find the most brilliant idea for the Friendship Festival competition, and a bit of me was thinking, that'll show them. I was about to march out of the cloakroom when Emily called me back. I'm so sorry, she said, but could you tie up my bracelet for me? Of course, I said, and I took the bracelet from her. Oh! Isn't it pretty? Emily smiled. It's a friendship bracelet, she said. Daisy made it for me in the holidays, and I always wear it. I nearly hugged her. Friendship bracelets. Wouldn't that be the best idea ever? But then I wondered if Emily had thought of it for Rose's room. No, she said when I asked her. We're going to suggest making feathery fans. Don't say I told you. I won't, I promised, and as I hurried away, I felt so much better. I was about to head back to the recreation room, but then I had another idea. Why didn't I see if I could make a bracelet all by myself? And then I could show the others. I practically skipped up to the craft room, and I was in luck. The door was open, and Fairy Angora, she's our deputy fairy godmother, was tidying up. She looked a bit surprised to see me, but all she said was, "Can I help, my darling?" "Yes, please," I said. "I want to make a friendship bracelet." Fairy Angora smiled. "Now that's a good idea." "I know," I said. "But I want to try one out first." The next hour or so whizzed by. Fairy Angora showed me where things were, and I made the sweetest friendship bracelet. It had pink twinkly beads, and tiny pink hearts, and a dear little silver clasp shaped like two hands holding each other. "Thank you very much," I said when it was finished. "Aren't you going to wear it?" Fairy Angora asked. I hesitated. "I don't think so," I said. Somehow it felt as if it might be bad luck to wear the bracelet before I'd sorted things out with my friends. Fairy Angora smiled at me. "I see. Good luck." For a moment I wondered if she knew what had happened between Amy and me, but she couldn't have. All the same, it was strange. The bedtime bell rang while I was walking back, so I made my way up to Poppy Room. Do you know what it's like when you come into a room and everybody suddenly stops talking and you just know they were talking about you? Well, that's what happened to me. Then Chloe said, "We've been deciding what we're going to suggest for the competition. We thought our idea could be to make pretty little cushions, and they'll be exactly the right size to put a tiara on. What do you think?" "I was wondering about friendship bracelets," I said, and I held mine out. "Oh!" George's eyes lit up, and I saw Olivia smile, but Chloe shifted from foot to foot as if she was embarrassed. I think we'd sort of decided on the little cushions," she said. "That's right." Lauren folded her arms. "It was Amy's idea, and we thought it might cheer her up if we chose it." She gave me a meaningful sort of look. She's still really upset. The sick feeling in my stomach suddenly got worse. "Oh," I said. And I put my bracelet quickly in my pocket. I didn't sleep at all well that night. It was so strange. I absolutely knew I hadn't told the twins about Amy being scared of writing, but I still felt as if I'd done something terrible. But I haven't, I told myself firmly. I really haven't. At last I drifted off to sleep, and I had all kinds of weird dreams, and then the alarm went off, and it was time to get up. Chapter 4. The day didn't start well. No one talked to me at breakfast. When I walked into the dining room, I found there wasn't a seat for me at our usual place. I had to go and sit by myself. Diamond and Gruella looked at me and immediately started giggling. "Look!" Diamond sneered. "What's happened to the Poppy rumors?" Gruella put her head on one side. "I wonder why nobody's talking to Jessica. Aren't Poppy rumors supposed to be the best friends ever?" "That's right," Diamond chortled. "So they're bound to get to ride at the head of the friendship procession. And then poor Amy will fall off her dear little pony." Gruella just about fell off her chair, she was laughing so much. I didn't know what to do. I stared at the table in front of me, and did my best to ignore them. The very next moment the door burst open, and Fairy G came billowing into the room. "Now, my dears," she boomed, "time for the competition to see which dormitory has the best idea of 4 creative ways to make a friend feel special. Lily Room, what have you thought of?" Princess Hannah stood up. "We've thought of embroidering hankies," she said, "with little tiaras in each corner." Fairy G said, "Fine. Fine. And what about Tulip Room?" Tulip Room said their idea was to spend every Monday morning polishing their friends' tiaras, and Sunflower Room wanted to arrange a special friendship tea party. Then Gruella burst out, "You haven't asked us, Fairy G." "That's right." Diamond tossed back her hair. "We've got the best idea ever. We're going to give every princess in the school our autograph. So when we're famous they'll be able to frame it," Gruella added. Fairy G didn't look very impressed. She said, "I see. Now, let's hear from Rose Room." Emily told her about making fans. Fairy G nodded. "And what about Poppy Room? Have you got a sparkling idea to make your friends feel really special?" "They don't deserve to win, Fairy G," Diamond interrupted rudely. "They're not even speaking to Jessica." "That's right." Gruella chipped in. "We should be riding those dapple gray ponies, not them." Fairy G gave Gruella the oddest look. "Princess Gruella," she said, and something in her voice made us all sit up very straight and pay attention, "might I ask how you know what color the ponies are?" Lauren said they were dapple gray. Gruella smirked. "We both heard her, didn't we, Diamond? When we were in the homework room OW." She stopped with a squeal. Diamond had pinched her. All my friends from Poppy Room gasped and stared at me and began to talk all at once. Fairy G began to swell, which is what she always does when she's angry. Just what is the meaning of this? She bellowed. Amy stepped forward and sank into a deep curtsy. Fairy G, she said, and her voice was shaking. I don't think any of us from Poppy Room deserve to ride in the friendship procession, except Jessica. She looked round at Lauren and the others. We've just been the worst friends ever to poor Jess, and I want to tell her how very, very sorry I am. She walked over to me and took my hand. Will you ever forgive me? I blushed bright red. Of course, I mumbled. Poppy Room. Fairy G's voice was so loud I jumped. Kindly explain. Chloe put her hand up. Please, Fairy G, she said. Amy told us a secret, and we didn't know the twins were hiding in the homework room and overheard. And then they told Amy it was Jessica who had told them. Olivia nodded. Jessica did say she'd seen them in the homework room, but we didn't believe her but Jessica couldn't have seen us. Gruella squealed. We were hiding behind the bookcase. Fairy G gave Gruella a piercing look. And why was that, Gruella? She asked. Gruella hung her head and didn't answer. Diamond? Can you tell me? Fairy G asked, but Diamond wouldn't say anything either. She stared hard at the table in front of her and picked at her fingernail. Fairy G folded her arms. One of the most important things about being friends, she said, is to be able to sort out misunderstandings and say sorry. Jessica, what do you have to say? All I have to say, I said, is that I've got the best friends in all the world. Excellent, Fairy G said. Now, what have you to say, Diamond and Gruella? There was a long silence, and then the twins muttered, sorry. That's that dealt with, Fairy G said. She looked at Amy. Now, I never did get to hear what Poppy Room's idea to make their friends feel special was. Amy, Chloe, Lauren, Olivia and Giorgio looked at each other, and then at me. Friendship bracelets, they said, all together. Very good, Fairy G said. A splendid idea. An idea popped into my head. Excuse me, I said, but could we make bracelets for Diamond and Gruella too? Fairy G raised her eyebrows. May I ask why? Because they need to know how to be friends more than any of us, I said, and I could feel myself blushing all over again. Well said. Fairy G smiled her huge beaming smile. And for that answer, I declare Poppy Room the winners. Poppy Room will ride at the head of the friendship procession on dapple gray ponies. Chapter 5. The Festival of Friendship was wonderful. By the time it arrived, I was so tired of my friends telling me how sorry they were I had to tell them we wouldn't be friends if they ever mentioned it again. And guess what? Fairy G tapped my bracelet with her wand and suddenly there were 8 of them. 1 for each of us, and 2 for Diamond and Gruella who did not say thank you. Amy was fine. It turned out that Fairy G was going to ride in the sweetest silver carriage, together with Fairy Angora, and they asked if Amy would be kind enough to keep them company. We went round and round the town, bowing and smiling and waving until I thought my arm would drop off. Princess Jessica, and then at the very end of the day there was a huge picnic beside the Princess Academy Lake, with music and dancing. The trees were hung with sparkly fairy lights, and Chinese lanterns shone over the tables piled high with the most delicious things to eat, and there were heaps and heaps of sweet little pink satin cushions to sit on. We wore our most summery ball gowns, and we danced and danced until the sky was deep velvety blue, and sprinkled with thousands of tiny silver stars. But the best moment came as I was going up to Poppy Room at the end of the day. Gruella was leaning against the wall outside the door, and as I walked past she pushed something into my hand. Sorry, she grunted, and then she was gone. When I looked down, I found I was holding a little note. It said, "Thanks for the bracelet, Jessica." Wish you were my best friend. It would be easier to be nice if you were. Gee, and when I was lying in bed that night, I was so happy because I had so many wonderful friends, and I'm so glad you're my friend too. What happens next? Find out in Princess Georgia and the Shimmering Pearl. Hello, and I'm very pleased to meet you. I'm Princess Georgia, and Chloe, Jessica, Olivia, Lauren, and Amy share Poppy room with me, and we're very best friends. We're trying to be real perfect princesses, but guess what? It isn't always easy. I'm so glad you're here at Ruby Mansions with us, but do watch out for the horrible twins, Diamond and Gruella. They're so mean. But we'll look after you, you're our friend.